بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Assalamu alaikum. It is Thursday, the 16th of December 2021. And in our series, Reflections on the Holy Quran, this is broadcast number 285. And these days we are discussing the meanings of the words of verse 96 of the second chapter of the Holy Quran, Al-Baqarah, or the cow. And this is our seventh broadcast discussing this verse of the Holy Quran. Just to remind you that the Lahore Ahmadiyya community was established by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and just that although other people say that after the Holy Prophet Muhammad another prophet will come, this is not possible because the Holy Quran says that the Holy Prophet was Khatamun Nabiyyin, and the Holy Prophet explained that by saying, La Nabi Abadi. There is no prophet after me. So now neither an old nor a new prophet can come. However, as the companions radiallahu anhum asked the Holy Prophet Muhammad, what will happen when people go astray, Muslims go astray? And the Holy Prophet said, well, when that happens, then reformers, mujaddideen, will come. And they will be guided by God about how to lead people back to the straight path. And of course, this means that there may be differences of opinion and so on between people. But the Holy Prophet also said that if one reciter of the kalima says to another reciter of the kalima that you are a heretic, a kafir, outside the pale of Islam, the person saying it is closer to heresy. So although people are fond of declaring each other heretics and kafirs and so on, at the slightest excuse, the Holy Prophet forbade it. Similarly, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad taught that although generally people believe that some prophetic revelation has been missed out from the Holy Quran, this cannot be true because in the Holy Quran God says, I have revealed it and I am its guardian. And God's promise cannot be false. So no prophetic revelation is missing from the Holy Quran. Like people say, ayah, Rajam, Surah Walayat, etc. are missing. Similarly, people say that some verses of the Holy Quran have been abrogated. Shah Waliullah writes that people say more than 500 verses of the Holy Quran are abrogated. And Hazrat Shah Waliullah says he's conducted research and he's come down to the conclusion that only 7 verses of the Holy Quran are abrogated. But Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said, no verse of the Holy Quran was, is, or ever shall be abrogated. Similarly, people believe that jihad means that you take the sword and you go and kill non-Muslims if they don't embrace Islam. This is untrue. This is untrue. Jihad was defined by the Holy Prophet, and returning from fighting, he said that Muslims are returning from the minor jihad to the major jihad. And then went on to explain that the major jihad is a struggle against your own desires and your own self. That is the major jihad. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad insisted that jihad is a duty of every Muslim. It continues until the day of judgment, and every Muslim must be engaged in jihad every second of his life. Jihad is not restricted just to picking up the sword and attacking people. That only happens if you are attacked and you need to defend yourself. Because Islam is not a pacifist religion. It's a practical religion. So let us turn to the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 96. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولتجدنهم أحرص الناس على حياة ومن الذين أشركوا يود أحدهم لو يؤمر 1000 سنة وما هو بمزحزحه من العذاب أن يؤمر والله بصير بما يعملون. And you will certainly find them the greediest of people for life, greedier even than those who set up gods besides Allah. One of them loves to be granted a life of 1,000 years, and his being granted a long life is his being granted a long life will in no way remove him further off from chastisement. And Allah is seer of what they do. So today we are going to look at the words bimozah zihihi and azab. So let me turn to my notes on the computer. The first word that I said we'll discuss is interesting from a linguistic point of view. You would have noticed that I give the roots of words to try and see what concept the root is trying to give us. And all these roots up till now have been 3 letters as far as I can remember. But this one, the masdar, the root is 4 letters. Zay, ha, zay, ha. And it occurs in the Holy Quran twice in 2 forms. Once as zuhziha and once as muzahziha. And it means to move away, to draw away from something. So let us have a look. And it means, as I said, that to remove something, to take it away. For example, the Holy Quran in chapter 3, verse 184 says, فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ. So the person kept away from fire. So let's see if I've got any more notes. And yes, it says it means he was moved further away, moved to one side, etc. So this is the basic meaning, that you take something and you move it away from something else. The next word that we're going to look at is al-azabi. So its root, we are back to triliteral roots, 3 letters, ayn, wal, and ba. And that occurs in the Holy Quran 373 times in 5 forms, with 5 different meanings. 322 times it's azab, and 40 azab, which is a noun, punishment, and then 41 times as a verb, azaba, and times as mu'azzib, and 4 times mu'azzabin, and twice as azb. So if you look at them, the verb will be to punish. So we have in verse 284 of Al-Baqarah, وَيُعَذِّبُ مَن يَشَاءُ وَاللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. So he will punish. So all these different forms, they are he will punish, I will punish. I read out the word by you azibu, and it is, and he will punish. Then in another verse we have fa azibuhum, and I will punish. Then I will punish. Or you azibuhum, punishes them. Chapter 3, verse 128. But of course, that was the the inflicting of punishment. So punishment is walahum azabun azim. So because it's noun, it's the same word that's used. Azabun alimun bima kanu yakzibun, and so on. So that is the noun. And it's very interesting because if you look at the basic meanings of the word, the first meaning that you see, ma'un azbun, and that means pleasant, sweet water. And that is surprising considering the other meanings which this word has that we're all too familiar with. We've never thought of this word as meaning or implying something that is pleasant and sweet. But the Holy Quran says, Haza azbun fazatun, chapter 25, verse 53. And the water is sweet and pleasant to drink. But if you have al-azabu, that is to inflict severe pain or to punish. For example, in chapter 27, verse 21, the Holy Quran says, La'u azibannahu azaban shadida. I will punish them severely. Or in another place, chapter 8, verse 33, it says, Wama kana Allahu liyu'azzibuhum wa anta fihim wama kana Allahu mu'azzibahum wa hum yastaghfirun. God wasn't going to punish them when you were with them. And God is not a being who does not forgive or who gives punishment when people have sought forgiveness or repentance. So chapter 8, verse 34, the next verse, وَمَا لَهُمْ أَلَّا يُعَذِّبُهُمُ اللَّهُ. Now why? What reason is there? Why shouldn't Allah punish them? Give them azab. So you can see that what started with pleasant and sweet water to drink has now been turned into this. And there is a technical discussion about, the source of this word, etc., etc. But let's see what other notes I have on this. And the three basic things or three categories of meanings that this word has, or this root has. The first one, as I said, is pleasant and sweet water that stops thirst. And then it has another meaning, and that is that the pain that interferes in your enjoying your life. And a third meaning is a barrier, or to prohibit or forbid someone, or there being a barrier. Obviously, if the law forbids someone, the British law forbids people from stealing, shoplifting. So that's the barrier. There is a barrier, and if they steal, then and they're caught, then they're punished. And I mean, this in countries like UK, where there is plenty of water, you cannot even imagine what a great thing water is in some places. There are places in Pakistan where water is not available easily, or the water that is available is not drinkable. It's not what's called sweet water. It's like seawater. And think of Arabia, which is more desert, and drinkable water wasn't easily found. And if it was, then what you had was, you'd have two tribes or two clans fighting over the well or pond or whatever it was that had that sweet water. And it was with great difficulty that you accessed such water. So, and the Quran refers, remember this, let me repeat that all these meanings that we are looking at, they are justified from the Holy Quran by using verses of the Holy Quran, nothing outside. And you've noticed that many times I say, well, linguists disagree with this or argue about this, that, or the other, but I restrict myself to the meaning given in the Holy Quran. And I recited a verse of the Holy Quran which used this word, this root, or a word from this root, to refer to water as sweet and pleasant. Now, just think you're in the desert, you haven't had a drink all day, and you come to this pond, and from a distance it looks that it's going to be very nice, sweet, pleasant water, and that'll quench your thirst, etc. But then when you get close to it, you find that it's been polluted somehow. I don't know, some animal or bird or something fell in it and died and rotted away, and that makes the water undrinkable. It looks very enticing. You are very thirsty. Can you imagine the pain a person will feel when faced with that situation? What is he going to do? He hasn't had a drink all day. He's desperate. This pond from afar looks beautiful. The water looked nice and pleasant and sweet and so on. But when he gets close to it, he finds that there's some kind of pollution in it. So that this azab is thirst, is hunger, and any kind of difficulty that you might find yourself in. And this can be psychological. It doesn't have to be physical. Supposing you applied for a job and you think you're going to get it, and on that assumption you've gone and you've spent, I don't know, money and on things or whatever, and then you don't get it. Can you imagine how traumatic that would be for some person? In fact, the Holy Quran uses, Muslims restricted the word azab to what's going to happen in the hereafter, but it applies to all the deities in this world. And the Holy Quran does this. For example, in chapter 2 in Al Baqarah, at the very beginning, it talks about azab, of Pharaoh's azab that he inflicted upon the Israelites. Now, that stands for all the difficulties and problems that he created for the Israelites. They were given too much work to do. They weren't given enough food to eat. They had impossible targets to meet, and if they couldn't, they would be lashed and so on and so forth. So azab is not just something that will happen in the hereafter. Anything that deprives us of a happy life, of a pleasant life, that can be termed azab. It also applies to punishment that is handed down by a court or by anyone for something that you might have done. And so the word is also used for as punishment, in the sense we were talking about shoplifting and so on. So if you're caught and the magistrates, they say, we fine you, I don't know, £50, etc. If you were shoplifting in the first place because you didn't have enough money to buy food or whatever, that £50 or £100 fine is azab for you. It creates severe psychological trauma. So, as far as the Quran is concerned, azab also means humiliation on this earth. Like that great freedom fighter Tipu Sultan, he fought against the British and he lost and he was killed in the battle. He died fighting. But the person next door, the ruler of Hyderabad, who was a Muslim, he joined the British. And at that time, it seemed as if it was Tipu Sultan who was humiliated. But now when we look back, we know that Tipu Sultan was a martyr. He was a shaheed. He died, sword in hand, fighting to expel invaders from his country. Whereas everyone curses the Nawab of Hyderabad, who sided with the British, and on the face of it at that time seemed that he'd been honored in this world. So humiliation of any kind, fear of anything, particularly food, etc. Fear that God's blessings may be terminated or the doors of his blessings may be closed. That is the greatest fear. And then azab is also division. When a family, a clan, a group, a country becomes so divided that people belonging to different groups and all this kind of thing, all they want to do is to fight each other. See, the Holy Prophet Muhammad said that the difference of opinion in my ummah is a blessing. And it is a blessing. A puts forward a proposal, there are some weaknesses in it. B points out those weaknesses, puts his own proposal that has some other weaknesses. A points to weaknesses in B's proposal. People discuss them and so on. Maybe they come up with a solution. That is good. Doesn't have weaknesses of either proposal. Now that's a blessing. It's also a blessing because if you disagree, you do research and so on, and knowledge and research, they advance. But if you're just going to divide into 2, 3, 5, whatever number of groups, and you're going to, one group is going to support John, and whatever he says, right or wrong or whatever, the other group is going to support Peter. It doesn't matter what he does or says, he's Peter, I love him, and I've always supported him, etc., etc. And we have people like this, at election time on television, who are you going to vote for? Labour Party. Why? Well, my father always voted Labour. My grandfather always voted Labour. We have always voted Labour. But, what kind of reason is that? You should study the policies and politics of each party. And it may be that, one election you like what the Labour Party says, and at the other election you like what Liberal Democrat says, and in the third one you like what the Conservative Party says. So you select people on the basis of what they're proposing, not on the basis of my father always voted Labour and my grandfather always voted Labour and I'm not going to change. This is an azab. This is a punishment because you've splintered. You're not united anymore. You're not discussing things to get the best solution to anything. You are just arguing and debating for the sake of it. So with that, we have come to the end of our broadcast. Just to remind you that tomorrow at 1300 hours UK time, we'll have our Friday service. And then on Saturday, inshallah, we will have a broadcast on Pure Discussions, which is a WhatsApp group. So you can listen to that. And at the time of the broadcast, if you send your questions and comments in to the moderator, he picks some and reads them out or asks me questions based on that. So that is on Saturday. And then, inshallah, on Monday, we'll be back to these broadcasts. So with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, regardless of your religion or sect or caste or creed, may Allah keep the whole of humanity under his protection and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, goodbye.